Hi and welcome to How to Use CAD. I'm Tom Norris, and for today's tutorial we're going to take a look at the most common mistakes that designers make whilst creating plans for house extensions. If you follow our design tips and advice, you should be able to improve the odds on getting planning approval for your projects. Right, we've got 10 or 11 good design examples here of the most common mistakes. So if we take a look at, we'll just start on number one here. As you can see, this one's being given the big X and this one is given the yes seal of approval. I think it should be pretty simple for most people to work it out, and that is that you can't build an extension of an existing dwelling that is going to dominate and be larger than the existing property. It's an absolute no. You'll never get planning for it. If you see on this one, which was given the seal of approval, it's been shrunk down to make it subservient to the main property. For that, you'll generally get planning as long as it hits the target on other little points. But generally speaking, that's an absolute design. A design, what do you call it? I was tempted to be rude there, but no, I'm not going to be rude. I don't need to be. But yeah, that's an absolute no-no. Okay, so let's move down to the next one. On this one, similar. But this one isn't such a bad design. It's not such a huge mistake, because I can tell you that on some plannings and some planning councils you might get that with a few little alterations. So for example, we're getting a yes on this particular one. It's a two-story extension that's been made to be subservient to the main building. It's been set back, roof is lower. So yeah, it's again subject to the other criteria. You're generally likely to get planning on an extension or a proposal for an extension like that. Now the problem on this one, you got two issues. The main one being that little window there. The councils don't like anything that might be overlapping or overlooking other people's property. That's an absolute no-no. But if you did have a staircase inside, then the proposal could be for an obscured and glazed window, and you just might get it on that. The other problem with this particular drawing is the change of materials. It is subservient, it is set back, but the change of materials might be holding it back. They're unlikely to. In some cases they would, in some cases they wouldn't. But again, you're taking a risk here. I'm led to believe on this drawing that the windows are possibly Georgian here. They have a few bars in them, whereas the new extension, they don't seem to have any bars in them, which means they don't have that Georgian style. And again, the shape of the windows here are square or rectangle, but not in the same way here. So if you were doing an extension like this, you try to continue the windows to be the same or very similar in design and in height and so on. And as I say, whilst in many cases it's nice to have a change of texture for the extension bit, that might not be an issue, but in some cases it is, in particularly if it's Article 4 or in a conservation area. But this window here on the side, that's a no-no generally. Right, let's move down. We move down to this one. Yeah, pretty easy to see what the problem is, but planners would just jump on that immediately. Here, if we look at the bad one first, I suppose. Here, what we've done is we've extended the roof. If the roof lined up properly and absolutely matched up, we wouldn't have this line. But of course, it would still be wrong, because you can see that this is the main house, and what they've extended is it's a massive extension here. 2 stories, and they've dragged the roof across. Now that's not such a bad idea in some respects. So it's an absolute no-no. But in many respects it is. They've matched up the windows, which is good. But if we take it here, take it over to the left side, what they've done is they've made the two-story extension, or the garage with the room above, etc. They've made it subservient by dropping the heights down, and because there's a line here, one has to assume it's set back a little. Even if this one wasn't set back, the roof needs to come down, because otherwise the planning officers generally won't push for that, or they won't recommend it. Okay, down here, integration of extension into existing form of house. Poor integration. This is a very basic, absolute no-no. This one, windows match, roofing tiles match, roofing style match. Again, it integrates fine, so that you can see, you should be getting the picture now, that you need to make it match up on the house with style wise, but also make, if it's a two-story extension, make it subservient. Now I can tell you that I've done loads of, hundreds of them, two-story extensions, and I don't always set the two floors back. I could come out absolutely the same on the ground floor and then set the top floor back about a meter. And I might keep the heights, the gutter heights, the same all the way around. But the roof will generally end up being subservient, because the pitch will be slightly lower than the pitch for the main roof. So as long as you're giving that subservient look and styling, you should be able to come out on the ground floor completely to match up on the house, and then just set it back on the first floor. But either way, I mean, this monster here, that's an absolute no-no. Come down a bit further here. Right, so this is the average size. So we got 4 houses here on a little block, the terrace, I suppose. This is average one house. So if we look at this one, what they've done is they've extended, turned it into a double fronted house and brought it out. Different type of window, different everything. This is, you can see here, we got a bay here where this is come out. It actually doesn't look that bad, but having said that, it's miles different towards what we would expect. But I guess in my younger days, I might well have tried something like that. On this one, same mistake. They've extended a house and they've made it, the same. They've just stretched out the whole facade of the house to make it an extra wide house. Just not going to get away with it. So if we look down here, this is what the planners were looking for. See, subservient, two-story extension, subservient again. This one you see on the ground floor, the garage has come forward to the front elevation wall. That's what I was telling you about up here. You could actually bring it out just there. Yeah, so these are common errors, and over and over. And of course, if you're in luck, the planners will come back and they'll say, look, we can't recommend this, but if you did this, etc., etc., we might well be able to recommend it. But in some cases, they don't, which means you just get a refusal. So the whole process of doing the drawings, doing the actual survey, doing the measurement survey, doing the plans, doing the planning application, the whole thing's a complete waste of time. So as a designer who deals with planning applications for your clients, you're supposed to know all this. Otherwise, it's pretty unfair, because you're wasting all their time and money. And we generally monitor all our planning applications. We put them in, and about 4 to 5 weeks later, we start emailing the planning officers to let them know if anything that they need, photos or anything like that, that we're the go-to guy, or I'm the go-to guy, and let me know if there's any tweaks. And then they always come back and they say, could we have this, or could we have that, but generally speaking, we get around 99% of our planning applications approved, and it's because we don't come up with this junk. So we do check, but even if we did make an error here and there, and maybe it's, for various reasons, it's going to be touch and go because of the size of the extension, or the neighborhood, or the neighbors complaining, it's still always good to get that rapport going, or liaise with the planning officer about 4 weeks into the application, so that you can pick up on issues. Right, this one you can see, At first glance this doesn't look too bad, but you can see immediately that it's related to the Georgian windows. Here you have Georgian windows, here you have different shaped altogether, different texture, different materials, but that's not the materials, it's to do with the windows. You might get away with maybe this is render, maybe it's brickwork, I don't know. It's at odds anyway. And this one barely scrapes it. I certainly wouldn't like that house. It just looks like a box stood on the side, even if it does get approval. But it's definitely the windows, that's what they're indicating on this one. This one's a bit more simpler. Front facade is fine, front elevation is fine, double fronted house. 3 Deluxe windows in the roof here. Here we're all over the place, so I'm not saying that you wouldn't get planning permission for that, but it's not good design, and maybe it may well be that there's something going on inside that necessitates something like that, but it's unlikely you get planning for something as ugly as that. But so I generally try to avoid and aim for the windows decently spaced out, and as you can see these line up with the first floor, which is always good. So if you're doing Deluxe windows, before you just pop them in anywhere, see how it works with the elevations, etc. Right, come on down here. Now this one's a little bit different, and this is it's another thorny subject, and this relates to the 45-degree rule on second story extensions. So if you haven't heard of this is a real good learning curve. Lots of our clients ask about getting a 2-story extension, and they often start out, they say, yeah, I want full width, 2-story extension, 5 meters. And I say, are you detached? They say, no. I say, it's an absolute no-no. And the reasoning is, we'll look at this one first, yeah. This is the boundary line. So you're proposing a 2-story extension. This ground floor is fine, and the second floor, as you see, it's coming out here. But there is a rule called the 45 degrees rule, which means that if you run at 45 degrees from the center of your neighbor's window, you should have a clear view. So you do that line, it's not difficult to work out, you do that line. If your extension comes beyond that, you're going to get an X in the box. You see this one? So all the light here that's being blocked into this neighbor's house. So that's an absolute no. So if you are looking at 2-story extensions on the back, and you are even going up to the boundary, keep in mind that 45-degree rule is going to make absolutely make sure you don't come out too far. You can do that, and then you can start building at an angle, and you can do all that, but the cost and the structure is going to permit. So far better if you can shove your extension over here onto this side and then come out a bit, but just always run the line here. If you are building, run the lines on your plans, make sure you're not encroaching the 45-degree line. So as you can see, this one got a no, quite rightly so, whereas this one didn't. Right, what are we doing here? Now, you think simple extension, the side of a house, what's the problem? Got a no. Well, based on the ones we've looked at already, you should be able to work out immediately that it's the window. It's just not in keeping at all. It's a box on the side of the house. So if you're doing something like that, then what we do is we want the lintels above the windows would be appropriate to look to something similar like that. This one, you'd need something to build on, something like this here. Twin windows, sills that match up, lintels, so the window is completely gone here. And based on the colouring, it's also showing that the roof is different, and that's a no. So here, you can see it all lines up. They've done a double window, they've done a roof that matches up, a little bit of detail up here. So that's a lovely little extension on the side, and when you look at that, you think, yeah, that could be original, because you can't tell the difference, and that's what you're trying to achieve. Right, on the last one here, 2 properties extending. They just added 2 huge boxes, full height, as against two subservient, two double-story extensions, which work fine. And the idea, I suppose, and planners often have said it to me before, is that the aim is to, if you extend the facade of the front of the house, it changes the appearance completely on the property. Whereas if you do a subservient extension, you're still having the front facade intact, but you are getting the extension you want. Having said that, it's not 100%, because you take a property with 1930s property with those nice round bays. I have done a few where I've actually turned it into what we call a double fronted property. So we're talking about semi-detached property, nice round bays, top and bottom. We've done exactly the same here, pulled the roof over, and I've got it through planning. So the rules that apply on all of these little pictures here, the rules that apply, you could say some of them are absolutely 100%, but some of them have to be taken with a pinch of salt, in that there is a bit of mitigation that you can apply, and there is a possibility that at certain instances you might be able to get to two-story extension that is not subservient, but it has to form some other relationship, and in this case turning a single fronted house into a double fronted house can work at certain times, but you're going to have to do trial and error to determine which ones will and which ones won't. Right, that's about it. So for this little tutorial, hopefully you've saved yourself a lot of time and money and effort here, if you can avoid the pitfalls that a lot of the young designers fall into. So hopefully, if you keep these in mind, you'll be creating extension plans that actually get recommended by the planning officer, and you get planning approval. Right, thanks for joining me. See you on the next lesson.